Hello there again everyone, it's Carol here from the Crafty Emporium. Following on from the previous video that I did showcasing the new digital kit that I've got, I said that I would come back and I would show you these two new projects that I made using the new digital kit. Alright, so one is, right end wouldn't might help Carol, is a little like file folder storage area, and the other one is got a little tiny box on the inside of it. Okay, if you missed the previous video, what I actually showed you how to make was two little mini books, and these have just got coffee dyed papers in them. I haven't decorated them up at all, so they're just coffee dyed papers, but in the previous video I did show you how to make those. So I'm going to show you how to make this little file folder first of all, and what you actually need is you need two of the book covers and you need them to be the same. We're going to stick one on top of the other. Let me just spin them that way around. These are actually directional, but only this particular one, but only in that center point there, but I could decorate that up and cover that over later on. So I'm going to stick one to the other by sticking one half on top of that half there. So let me do it that way and then you'll be able to see it easier. So I'm just going to use my collal glue and just run it up along the edge of the spine there, and then put some glue through the middle, and then sit this one then on top so that it lines up with the edge of the spine area here. Okay, so I've now got 3 of the images instead of having 4, and I would then go and spray, and again I showed this in the previous video, I would then go and spray with this spray and shine from Crafter's Companion, and I have put it in the description box down below in my Amazon shop, and it's under the glue section. So I would then spray that and then leave that to dry. The next thing that I then did was, once I'd sprayed them, I then glued it onto a piece of craft coloured card. So I glued them on and then I went and cut it out. I then used my score pal, see I remembered the word this time, and I scored down the edge here where the spine is, and also the same here, and then I flipped it over and I scored it again on the other side, and then I folded and burnished each of those score marks, right, so that you end up with 2 spine areas. So fold, fold, and you end up with this. Okay, so I then cut out one of the end papers here, and I then cut it in half so that I ended up with a piece like this. I then cut off about a 3/4 of an inch strip off this end here, because otherwise it's too big a piece to be able to make the hinge system. And so what I did was I folded it over and I folded 2 little flaps in at each end by about 1/2 inch. I'm not measuring it, I'm just doing it by eye. So then I'm just checking which way around I did it. Okay, so then I folded it in half. Oh, let me just check. So yeah, that's right. I forgot which way I did it. So I did it like that, and then I folded it in half, and then I folded it back on itself. Okay, then I flipped it over and again folded it back on itself. So I ended up with a concertina piece here. Now these 2 ends end up shorter. I'll bring it up closer. These 2 end flaps here end up shorter. Can you see, look? Than these. Don't worry about that, that's absolutely fine. And you want 2 of those, so I've done that to 2 pieces. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Tombow glue, and I'm going to put some glue on this flap here. Make sure I've got it in the corners. And then I'm going to stick that on this centre panel here, and so that it's lined up with the edge of the card down here and this crease down here. Okay, so it looks like that when you turn it to the side, and it looks like that when you turn it to the inside. So now I'm going to do the same with this one. I'm going to put some glue on that flap. Flip it over. And again, glue it onto that centre panel, but this time on the opposite side. Make sure it's lined up with the edge of the card here, and it's lined up with this crease at the bottom down here. So it now looks like that. So then I'm going to put some glue on this flap, and also on this flap. Okay, so it looks like that. And then if I push those down a bit and then lift this flap up and over, and then that should adhere to the outer part. Let's push them together a bit. Now what I ended up doing was I ended up cutting this part of the book down a little bit, which is why these are sticking out the top just a touch, because otherwise I couldn't close the outer flap very well. So I'm probably just going to trim at a slight angle those little pieces so that they're not sticking out. I could have cut them down beforehand before I stuck them in. Just neaten that edge up a touch. There we go. And it now means that when I open it up, there we go, that it opens up like so. So I'm actually going to create a magnet closure, and I use these little, well, you can see them because they're so tiny, some little tiny magnets. Now again, I've got them in the Amazon shop with the link there, so that you can see what size I use, and they're the tinier ones that I've used, and they're only 0.5 millimetre thick. Let me just try and peel one off for you to have a look at. It's really, I don't know whether you'll see it because of my nails. So can you see how small and thin that is? All right, now you could save yourself some money by using a washer, a metal washer, or some other form of metal as well, which will save you a bit of money. But because of the thickness of the card that I've got, the magnet and the washer isn't quite strong enough, so I'm going to have to use a magnet and a magnet. So I'm just going to put a little bit of micropore over that magnet and flip it over, and put a little bit of glossy accents on the back of the magnet so that that will stick to the card on the inside. And I know that I want it round about here on the inside, so I'm just going to kind of guess where that is. That'll do. So I've just kind of stuck that in place. I don't know whether you'll see that with the micropore there. And then I'll get another magnet. And mind, because it's quite easy to peel two off. And I'm just going to let it drop. So you can see, look, it's connected to that magnet underneath it. And I'm going to put, again, a tiny drop of glossy accents just on the back of that magnet, and hold the lid down over the top. Just hold it there for a little while, because what I should be able to do, you might not see this, but there's a little circle there now of where the magnet should attach. I've split my nozzle as well on my glossy accent, so it's coming out the side. So sit that there where that little mark is, and again just put some micropore over the top. So the micropore and the magnets, as I say, are in my Amazon shop, so that you can see which ones I use. And that now means that that will now snap shut. Stay. The other thing that I did as well was I just used my corner punch, and I just punched out, if it'll go in, there we go, a little decorative corner. So I've now got those decorative corners there. So you could have a piece of ribbon, a piece of lace, a bit of washi tape, and you could have a little tab. Just attach it there to be able to lift the lid up. It also then helps to cover that magnet over. So that's the basis of the little folder. And I'll show you the one that I made earlier. It's hiding. There we go. So again, it just magnetizes there, and then it opens up so that you can store some bits and pieces in, and then you've got the marbled papers on the ends to just keep it all in place. So that's the little file folder that I made using the book covers. So I'm going to go on and show you the next project now. See you in a second. So to make this little box, well, book box, I've used one of the covers again, and we're going to put a little box inside of it. So I've done exactly the same as I've done previously, which was I cut out the paper, I sprayed it with my spray and shine, and I've glued it to a piece of craft cardstock, and then I've creased using my score pal down the spine area on the front and on the back, and then I folded and burnished those two crease marks. So now I've got a book cover. All right, what we're going to do now is we're going to make the little box that sits inside of it. And if I show you this one, so basically we're making a little box, and let's see if I can tilt it to show you, so that it's got a little lip here on the edge, and also on the edge here. I don't know whether you'll be able to see that very well. There's a little lip there, and there is a little lip up at the top here, and the actual box itself sits right on the edge of that first crease of the spine. So to actually make the box, to know what size you need, we're going to measure from the spine area to this edge, and this actually measures 3¼ inches. So I want a piece that's going to measure 3 inches, because I want that little bit of a lip. And then this way it measures 4 3/4 inches, so I'm going to do it to 4.5 inches. So the actual flat part of the box, the base of it, is going to measure 3 inches wide and 4.5 inches long. We then also need to include the actual side of the box as well, and the sides of the box needs to be the same depth as the spine itself. So the spine measures 1/2 inch. So, bit of mathematics. I'm going to try and draw you a rough picture. So, we're going to have the base of the box is going to measure 3 inches from there to there, and it's going to measure 4.5 inches from there to there. Okay, so can you see that okay? And then we need to add on the lip for the side of the box, the side of the box, this side of the box, and this side of the box. And we know that we want these parts to measure the same depth of the spine, which is 1/2 inch. So we've got another 1/2 inch to add on to that measurement for this flap, and we've got another 1/2 inch to add onto this measurement for this flap. With the 3 inches, we've got the 1/2 inch to add for this flap and the 1/2 inch to add for this flap. So it means that we're actually going to cut a rectangle that measures 3, 3.5, 4 inches. So we're going to cut a piece that's 4 inches wide by 4.5 plus 1/2 plus 1/2 is 5.5 inches. Okay, so we want a full piece that's going to measure 4 inch by 5.5 inch. So 4 inch by 5.5. So 4. And then I'm going to twist it round and do that to 5.5 inches. I'm then going to score a 1/2 inch border all the way around all 4 sides. So I'm going to do it at 3.5. Spin it. 5. Spin it. 3.5. Spin it again. And 5. So it now looks like that. So I've got this 1/2 inch on each of the 4 sides. I'm then going to fold and burnish each of those 4 sides over. So that it makes it easier to make the box up and then open them back out. I'm now going to cut down those 2 fold lines down that little square. So if I hold it up close, can you see there's this square here? So I'm going to cut down this line here down to the fold line, and I'm going to cut down this fold line here down that little square, and then the same on this side and this side. So I'm cutting there and there, spinning it around and doing it there and there. And then with my Tombow glue, I'm going to pull those little flaps back and put a bit of glue on. and then lift that outer side up and glue the flaps to the inside. And then I'm going to fold that flap back and that flap back, and I'm going to put some glue on there. And the same on the other little flap. And then they should adhere to the inside of that side flap. Now, depending on the thickness of the card that you've used, you might end up with a little bit of a flimsy box, but the way in which you can strengthen it is you can cut some 1/2 inch strips of card and decorate the outside of these edges of the box, and that will help to make it a little bit more rigid and give it a little bit more support. The other thing that I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to use one of the marbled papers and cut it so that it fits inside the box here. So I can see I need to trim this down a little. There you go. And so what I can do is I can flip it over that way, and I can see how much I need to cut off. As you can see, this was a rubbish piece because I printed the wrong thing on the back of it. So it's a good way of using that up, is to be able to stick it inside of there. And I'm just going to put some glue. It doesn't have to be well stuck down. It's just to hold it in place. And then that can sit in there. And then I can use another one of the pieces of the marbled paper, as I say, to just decorate this outside edge up, to just give it that little bit of extra support. So the next step that I want to do is I want to put a little closure on. So I've just, from a scrap bit of the paper, I've just cut out this thin strip and I've just rounded the corners off, and I would actually just ink this up just to give it a little bit of extra shape and make it look a little bit more vintage. And I'm using the walnut stain here, and I'm just running it around the edge. Now at the moment you can see I've got a really long strip, and that's because I want to cut it down in a minute. So I want to make sure that I've got the right size. And this is going to, that tray will sit here, and this is going to sit under the tray. So I need to make sure that I've got it the right sort of size. So you can see, look, that's a touch too long, so I want it about there. So if I slide that under, then I've got a rough idea of where I want that to sit. So I can now work out roughly how much I want to cut off. And then I'm going to glue this to the underside of that tray to just hold it in place. Then I'm going to put glue on the bottom of the tray itself. And put it on the right hand side with this flat edge here up against the edge of that crease, and make sure that I've got an even space at the top and the bottom, so then that will then sit on top. I'm then going to add a little magnet on here. So I'm just going to put that magnet there. And I'm going to sit my second magnet on top so that I know that the north-south is connecting with each other. Now I'm just going to leave that for a minute. Just let that stick, because I just want to show you what I did with this one. So with this one, I actually added a filigree end cap. And because it was metal, it means that the magnet automatically attaches to it. So it doesn't have to be another magnet. It could actually be a little piece of, can you see that? Okay, that little piece of filigree. And I just flattened it down. It was an end cap, so it was quite domed. So I flattened it down a little bit, and the magnet attaches to it quite easily. And again, I could just decorate that up a little bit. Punch a little circle out. Add a filigree cap on top. Just for now, I'm just going to put a little piece of micropore on to just hold it in place, because I can peel that off in a little while. And then it means that that has now got a closure, and we've got this little box on the inside. And as I say, I would probably add, because of the thickness of the card that I've used, I would probably add some strips of decorative paper on the outside edge of this little tray to just make the sides a little bit firmer. But these just make ideal little rack items or swap items. And then, as I say, you can just fill it up with some stamped images. And as I say, they just make ideal little gifts, rack items or swap items. So those are just a couple more things that you can actually do with the digital kit. Now, the other one that I am in the process of doing, I haven't finished it yet, and I'm not going to do a tutorial on it because I'm going to do a bigger version of one of these. But I actually started to make a lap book, a little miniature lap book with it. Right way up might help. So I've got a little metal latch on there, and then that will open up. And then I've just got them paper clipped at the moment. Take the paper clips out. But for those of you who are clever enough to work it out, it's just another idea for you. So that will be a little miniature lap book when I've finished making it. But I do intend to do a lap book as a little mini series in a month or two time. Maybe a week or two time, we'll see. We'll see how the planning goes. But yeah, so that was another idea with the actual digital kit as well, was to make a little lap book. So there's lots of things that you could actually do with it, and I'd be quite interested for those of you that are on my Facebook group who maybe purchase the kit as to what it is that you yourself will manage to create with this kit, and I look forward to seeing them. So I hope you've enjoyed that and learnt a couple of things by it, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next video soon. Bye for now.